I'm Karen Mickey. I am 62, and I have known Cherie for probably 3 years or more. I first met her through a mutual friend, Rachel Sparks. I had been doing life transition counseling with Rachel, and Rachel told me about this Cherie Doyen who does these incredible meditation evenings on Monday nights. So I wanted to learn more about meditation, and I ventured to Cherie's one night and started doing her meditation evenings. And that's where the journey began. During those sessions, I began to experience some physical discomfort in certain parts of my body as I was visualizing different places in my life and places in my meditation. I talked with Cherie about it afterwards, and she said, let's do some individualized work. And so I began a new phase, a new journey with Cherie. And it truly has shaped and changed my life in this part and this time of my life, in my 60s. I claim my 60s as being the sweet 60s. And I have had lots of struggles these last 2 years, but through it all, it has been extremely sweet and wonderful. And Cherie's been a part of that journey. Cherie was able to identify that I had some trauma in my life from childhood on that I probably hadn't completely resolved. Interestingly, I had worked with other counselors over the past 30 years, particularly in my 30s when I went through my divorce and began to understand about trauma and about healing. I worked with some counselors at that point and did some inner child work and thought I had a pretty good handle on things. But interestingly, these same issues that trauma had put in my life kept reoccurring in different ways throughout my decades, different ways in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, and even on into my 60s. And it wasn't until I met Cherie that I think some of it was truly healed. I think in the previous decades, I had begun to understand intellectually the impact of trauma and what trauma does to the psyche, the soul, and the body. But it wasn't until Cherie that I think it really wrapped up and healed it. An example, a childhood example is that I had when I was 5 years old, physicians gave me a new IV antibiotic for my pneumonia, and they gave me an adult dose. And apparently I almost died, and it destroyed my gut, and they rushed me to the hospital where the Catholic nuns in their black robes had to hold me down while I had to have enemas and lavage my stomach and different things done. So it was a medically related trauma at a young age. But from that age on, I always had a dream. And in that dream, I was walking on the road, the brick road in my small town, and I'd step on a spider, and it'd get bigger, and I'd step on it, and it'd get bigger. And pretty soon, this big black hairy armed spider was cowering over me and devouring me. And in the 30s, when I did some inner child work, we realized that that's probably related to the black habitat of the nuns. As I was processing that emotional trauma. When I went through my divorce in my 30s, that dream came back. And it was, I think, related to what was happening to me at that time in my relationship. So I intellectually knew that this was all there. But interestingly, that dream would reoccur each decade when something traumatic was happening in my life. And now in my 60s, Cherie was doing a session with me one day, and she said, let's go back to when you were 5. And I had not told Cherie about that incident yet. And she knew that something happened to me at age 5. I said, okay. And she did her thing. And I went back emotionally, age-wise, to that 5-year-old little child. And she walked me through going back and rescuing myself and not just rescuing and recovering, but really integrating that lost piece of myself back into myself. I know that sounds pretty woohoo, but again, I had done inner child work before and nothing like this had happened before. So I did the process with Cherie, and when I came out of that, I felt lighter and different than I ever had before. And it stayed different. I can't explain it. When Cherie helps you reintegrate a lost piece of yourself, or a piece of yourself that you blocked away because of trauma, there is a healing and a wholeness that happens. She's worked with me on a couple of other childhood things that happened along the way. And jokingly, she looked at me the other day and she said, "We need to set some more sessions. I think you have 3 left you haven't shared yet." And I laughed and I thought, oh, I don't have 3, do I? Do I still have 3 left? And I'll be darned, I went home and in my quiet time with my Lord, I started thinking about it and praying about it. And boom, boom, boom. I know what 3 I need to go back and work on. And there's some of them that I haven't thought about in 30 years. But when they came back to my mind, tears flowed, emotions flowed. And I was like, yep, that is still in there. And I can heal that piece. So I'm going to go back with Cherie and we'll work on those things over time. Okay, so because I understand the energy reality, it was easy for me to allow Cherie in to connect with my energy and to share that energy together and for her to do what she wanted to do. And as a Christian, I welcome Jesus into our session and I ask for his Holy Spirit to be with us and to guide us and to be part of my healing because he is my Lord and my healer. And that has been a very powerful part of each session with me and for me. So I feel that energy and I feel the change in the energy. I feel the lightness, the brightness, the cohesion that has occurred. There is a different energy feeling. I sleep better afterwards. The other thing that Cherie's been working with me on is healing my gut. Probably when I was 5 and had the gut trauma, it damaged my gut and I've had gut issues all my life. But I also keep my emotions in my gut. So now at 60, I figured out with the help of a physician who specializes in autoimmune naturopathic work that I have autoimmune reactions to food. So I can't eat corn and dairy and egg and wheat and several other things. And Cherie has been helping me go into my gut and look at the emotions that I keep in my gut so that my gut can be healed emotionally as well as medically by removing the foods that I react to. And that has been a good part of my healing journey. And I can tell when I am dealing with an issue or facing an issue that needs dealt because it reacts differently in my gut. Wow, so many layers to that one. It shaped my relationships with people, my parents, my first husband, my own children. It shaped how I reacted to emotions. It shaped how I reacted to traumatic situations in my life. It took away some things from me that I had to learn to compensate for. It took away some of my power as a woman that I think helped me get into a relationship in my first marriage where while I wasn't physically abused, I was emotionally and verbally controlled and dominated. It kept me from, I think, a healthy gut, for example. And as I've grown through the decades and learned and released each layer and then finally reintegrated, life is just better. It's easier, it's more complete, it's healthier, it's calmer, it's more empowered. You know, at first I didn't know what to expect, so that unknown was interesting, but I embrace adventure, so for me it was a fun thing. um, Fear of it. I don't think I was afraid of it. I think I embraced it. It was like the changes that started occurring in me that my family experienced, that I had to go back and explain to them what was happening to me and help them see the positive things in my changes. And they have, and they are. I just had to help them walk through that a little bit with me, and they have also embraced it. So that was maybe the most challenging thing of it, was reaching out and incorporating the people I love into the journey with me so they weren't left behind or didn't understand. So that part's been really good, but it's been very freeing, and I look forward to it. And in fact, now I'm more aware if I'm being triggered by something. I'm like, okay, let's look at this. And I invite it in so that I can understand it and heal it. I'm welcoming the process even more and more the more I do it. Yes. Magnificent changes, healing changes. Women who have had beyond description trauma in their worlds and their lives, some from babyhood on, who have been through counseling, who have been through, you name it. But when they get with Cherie, you see the changes in their lives, in their countenance, in their face, in their skin, in their health, in their joy, in the choices they're making in their lives, in their empowerment, in their walk forward. It's just happening faster and more completely than anything they've experienced before. And there's been a couple of women who will kind of step up to the process and maybe do a session and kind of run away from it at first. They're not quite ready to go through the door, but then they come back and they tiptoe up to the door again and they go through a little bit more. And as she brings different pieces of themselves back, they come to the door more quickly, more readily, and more happily. So sometimes it's jump in and do it, and sometimes it's a little tiny step at a time. But no matter how it's happened, I've seen the positive changes in the women who have experienced human trafficking and exploitation in their life. Golly, don't wait. Call Cherie and step wholeheartedly into that journey with her, because healing is real and what she does is real and it works and it's not scary. It's safe and loving, non-judgmental, healing. It's incredible. It is a gift. And Cherie is a gift to be a blessing and a healer in people's journeys. And that's why she was put here on this world. And so you are giving back to her by helping her fulfill her purpose in this world. And she's giving back to you and helping you heal so that you can be the best person that you're created to be on this world. And it's not scary, it's fun. You're gonna cry, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna heal, you're gonna remember some things, you're gonna go back and you're gonna make peace with some people, or maybe you're not gonna choose not to make peace with them, but to make peace with yourself. There will be no cookie cutter approach, nothing unsafe about it. You will just be loved and healed.